Snipers, you have to see what's happening in the cryptocurrency market today as weekly candles are going to start opening up here very soon. So we have to look at the weekly chart. But first I want to talk about Bitcoin on the smaller time frames. Right now, testing 42,000 US dollars. The real number is 41,950. And notice how we've yet to get a decision here. Institutional volume has not participated with this test of 41,950. As a matter of fact, I always tell you guys here on the Snipers channel, wait for those hourly and 4-hour candle confirmations with decisive candle symmetry. And it's not a coincidence that we haven't got any one of those above 41,950. I think we have one 1-hour candle that closed above, and it was a clear bearish candle. And so with no volume yet to be seen here, and the anticipation that we have that if Bitcoin breaches above 42,000, we could see a breakout scenario all the way to 58,353 on the table. We have to discuss how the revolving parts of the market look today. I know some of you may not enjoy looking at the 4-dimensional revolving parts like the S&P 500, gold, US oil, but these revolving parts matter. And we're also going to look at the gold to Bitcoin chart. But if you don't know about this upside scenario, we talked about it yesterday that Bitcoin could potentially reach 58,353 just by breaking out above 42,000 US dollars, which we currently have the 100-day moving average sitting here as well. And then the last thing I want to address for Bitcoin, and then we'll go into some weekly candle analysis, is we also all know that there's this bullish hidden divergence on the RSI on the weekly chart, with the RSI forming lower lows and price action forming higher lows. All of these puzzle pieces can certainly put this scenario on the table for Bitcoin to reach 60,000 with this breakout. And what's very interesting is in January and February, Bitcoin was stronger than the S&P 500, and the S&P 500 closed the week on Friday testing its 200-day moving average, which Bitcoin has yet to do. So that's an odd puzzle piece on the table. I would say, in my opinion, that Bitcoin's waiting for something. We thought maybe before futures markets open, we would see this move, but futures markets just opened up. And so the weekly candles are going to reset. That could be the trigger. In less than 2 hours, I had to get this video update out to you guys. If we were to look at Bitcoin's weekly candle, we can't get much information here. It stayed within the price range of last week's weekly candle. But one thing I'll say is 3 weeks ago, the weekly candle that we got was a bullish reversal candle in a downtrend. This is a bullish engulfing candle with a very large wick. These could be seen in a downtrend to indicate a reversal. What's very interesting is we've really not come below that candle low since we saw that candle get printed. And this was right around the time when that Russia and Ukraine tension started to come into the markets. And we've seen actually Bitcoin do very well since that time. And so that's for Bitcoin right now. 41,950 is obviously important. There's a reason we've yet to breach above it. It's totally garden variety market behavior for us to see a little bit of a slowdown here, a rejection, just because it's the charts addressing to us, it's an important level. But I still have the scenario on the table that if we were to break out of this market structure, which we could consider, let's say, a symmetrical triangle, an ascending triangle, however you want to draw the lines, whether you want to factor in the closes, look at it on a line chart, there's certainly some market structure here that Bitcoin has held, forming these higher lows. And so if we get a break above 44,800, that would be the final confirmation that we're going to see that move to 58,353. But getting above 41,950, 42,000 puts us in the position to make this move, and it would be the 5th time we've come inside of this range. So I would say that the likelihood is we smash through 45,000 if we get above 42,000. And that's why we're so adamant right now about 42,000. There's a reason we wait for those hourly and 4-hour candle confirmations. But let's talk about the weekly chart, because we have to understand that traditional markets are going to be opening up. We're going to see where institutions are hedging their bets next week. That always has an effect on the cryptocurrency market, as we've seen happen many times in the past. And so let's assume what the markets are going to be like into this next week, just based on how the weekly candles closed for last week, where the S&P 500 with a bullish engulfing reversal candle getting above its 50-week moving average, it would be hard for me to say that the S&P 500 isn't going to be seeing higher prices into this week based on how the weekly candle closed. That's puzzle piece number one. And then That's not to mention the fact that it already tested its 200-day moving average. Despite being weaker than Bitcoin, Bitcoin has yet to do that. If Bitcoin did test its 200-day moving average, it would put it around $49,000 right now. I don't think that that's where the target is for Bitcoin if we get above 42,000 because of the fact that it's a stronger and better asset. I think we'll smash through that 200-day moving average as I talked about yesterday. Watch the video if you haven't already. But let's look at Japan, the largest international market, closing with an extremely bullish continuation weekly candle, getting above its 100-week moving average. That's a very positive puzzle piece to enter this week with. Even if we look at China, we closed above the 200-week moving average with a nice bullish potential reversal candle with this wick literally filling up all those orders. It doesn't look like we're going to be seeing downside coming into this next week, at least for the immediate short term. And if that's the case, all the sentiment looks like it wants to go into the bullish side to open up this week for traditional markets. Why isn't the scenario on the table for Bitcoin to also see a bullish break, possibly getting above the 50 and 20-week moving average to 58,353? I think that this is the scenario on the table if we just get confirmations above 42,000, which we could get maybe even while you're watching this video. It's not a surprise that we're seeing a little bit of a pushback here. I'm not too worried that Bitcoin's down 2% after testing 41,950. And then another thing to mention is Bitcoin dominance. It looks like the weekly candles are starting to lean towards coming back down and rejecting this 50-week moving average. That's very positive. We want Bitcoin dominance to come down because when Bitcoin dominance comes down, it tends to bring Bitcoin's price up as it shows fear is leaving the cryptocurrency market and institutions are more apt to also invest in altcoins. And so that's showing very strong signs of a reversal here. And then the last puzzle piece that isn't necessarily in the favor of Bitcoin is the altcoins outside of Ethereum. But on the Snipers channel, it's a 4D channel. We get to look at a leading indicator for that chart, which is the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart, which is showing positive signs and signs of life, holding 65,000 Satoshis. I wouldn't say that it's confirmed a breakout or bullishness, but I will say that it's at least holding up, and that's the least that we could ask for. And so things are looking good. And as we know, gold and US oil have calmed down for the most part. I heard Russia was holding back their citizens from being able to buy gold, which is interesting because that could be a good puzzle piece for Bitcoin. And then lastly, look at the VIX. We want the volatility to come down in traditional markets. In the past, that has allowed Bitcoin to go through these bull markets, right? The VIX comes down, and the weekly candle that closed for the VIX was an extremely bearish candle, which is what we want. We want downside on this chart. And so it's hard to argue that this right here isn't going to be seeing further downside, assuming that we're not going to be seeing too much volatility into this week, at least to the downside. That's a very positive puzzle piece. And it's just across the board. I mean, we can even look at Coinbase stock, and it's hard to argue that with this weekly candle closing and engulfing the 3 weeks prior candles, that there isn't a scenario on the table for this to see upside. So weekly candles all look really good, snipers. That's the main point. And lastly, here's what I'll say for Bitcoin. On the 6-hour chart, this is the institutional time frame. We've yet to get a real decisive break of 41,950. At this point, we are playing inside of the range with a support of 38,000, a resistance of 41,950. And in my opinion, we do not want to see Bitcoin come below 40,000 at this point to assume this upside scenario. Anything that happens above 40,000 is child's play. It's totally fine. No big deal. It's not institutional participation for the most part. And so if we consolidate just below 42,000 and above 40,000, I'm totally fine with that. I still expect bullish upside for Bitcoin to break through and follow the S&P 500 strength. And then if we do start to come and test 40,000, then we have clear support at 38,000. So I'm also not going to be too worried. Bitcoin decides to go sideways for a little bit longer, no big deal. But what I will say is if we break above 42,000, I do expect momentum to come in. I do think that we'll really start to see volume pick up moving above these two resistance levels. I think 45,000 really is where we'll see the strongest amount of volume to see that real push that we need to get to 58,353. But all of that is going to start at 42,000 US dollars. So that's the main level to watch. And with that, I hope you all enjoyed your Sunday. I know this is a quick update, but we're going to be doing a lot more of these quick updates here as price action progresses and this pattern starts to mature. But a very exciting week to come ahead of us. Traditional markets closed the week extremely strong, and so that's the one positive thing that we could latch onto to say that Bitcoin does have a very strong potential right now of seeing this move that we're waiting for to the upside. So with that, thank you all for tuning into the Snipers channel today. Smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm if you support the four-dimensional content, and I'll see you guys next time. Snipers out.